I'm going to show you what you need to do it, how much it costs to do it, and how to do it. Hello guys, and welcome to this Volks Wizard video, which is another one about my 2020 Golf R Estate that you see here, which I bought in early December from Crew Volkswagen. Now, I've already made two videos about this car. In the first one, I sprayed the underside with a protective wax to keep it looking good during winter, and in the last one, I gave the paint a coat of protective wax for the same sort of reason. Today, though, we're going to protect the engine by performing a running-in oil change. Now, this is becoming a bit of a tradition on the rare occasions when I buy a brand new car. It's basically just an oil change at about 1,000 miles. The reason for doing that so early is because when the engine is new and bedding in, metal particles will inevitably get in the oil, and that's not good for the engine for them to be in there until the first service at about 10,000 miles. And I can't really enjoy the car knowing they are in there, especially when I know how easy it is to get them out by a quick oil change. And that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to show you what you need to do it, how much it costs to do it, and how to do it. So without any further ado, let's get changing the oil on this Golf R Estate. Okay, I've got the car warming up in the background there because we need the oil to be nice and warm so we can drain it thoroughly. And it's a particularly cold day today. On the table over here, I've got all the bits needed to do the job, which I'll tell you about in a second. Before we do that, I just want to say this process will be very similar for a lot of cars in the Volkswagen group. Basically, if it's a 1.8 or 2 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine from the last 7 years, I reckon it'll be identical to what we're going to do today. Just check the part numbers of the oil filter and the sump plug, and also check the oil grade, because there is a lot of confusion about what you can use and it can vary from year to year. I should also point out the process is the same whether it's a running in oil change or not. Whenever you're doing an oil change, this is what it will be like to do. And I should also point out that yes, there is a running in process for the first 1,000 miles still on a modern Volkswagen. It's actually in the handbook. The first 500 miles need to be extra gentle, and then 500 to 1,000 you still need to take a lot of care, which I've had to go through with this car. But luckily it's winter and you can't really enjoy a car fully when it's sort of hovering around freezing. Anyway, but we're on 1,400 miles now, so yeah, a good time to get the oil out. Right, let's see what you need to do that job. Well, firstly, you need an oil filter, and at this kind of age of car when it's under warranty, just go to Volkswagen and buy one. There's the part number. I'll put the part number in the description of the video. £10 plus that, so about £12 from Volkswagen. This is about £6 from Volkswagen. This is the plastic sump plug, and it's not worth risking engine damage by not using it if the original one starts to leak. That's that. Then you need some oil. Yes, well, this is where the confusion arises. If you go to the Volkswagen Trade Part Specialist website, TPS, which is a subsidiary of Volkswagen UK, put the reg of my car in, you'll see it tells you, for a start, it's a 2014 to 2017, which is wrong. It's got the wrong engine number, and believe it or not, it tells you to use the wrong oil. It tells you to use a 540. This is Volkswagen UK's own website. I was a bit suspicious about this, so I contacted a guy called Scott Lancaster at Canterbury Volkswagen. He's the part manager there, and he very kindly, very quickly confirms that we need an oil that meets Volkswagen approval 50400, which is what this long life 530 oil is. Now, Quantum may not be a familiar brand to you, but basically it's what Volkswagen UK use as their sort of accessories brand here, and they have a range of oils made by German company Fusch that are to their standards, and you can buy them from TPS, and yeah, they're very good quality. That's what we've got there. We need about, well, you need just under 6 litres, so you have to buy 6 litres, so you need a 5 litre can. They don't do these anymore. This is still on the shelf though, so I'm going to get a litre out of this. It's got a bit in it. I think you need to allow about £35 to get the required oil. You can get it from elsewhere. Just make sure it's approved for your car. But this 50400 tends to work with any of these cars from the last sort of 7 years, but do check. Right. Now hopefully the car has warmed up and we can get that nasty contaminated oil out of it. Okay, well, welcome to the Volks Wizard workshop. Now the car has reached 90 degrees centigrade, so the oil is ready to come out of it. In preparation for that, I've taken off the oil filler cap and pulled out the dipstick. If you don't do that, you won't get a thorough drain because it creates a vacuum. With those removed, when you take the sump plug out, it seriously gushes out really, really quickly, and that's what you need for a thorough drain. I've put the dipstick and oil filler cap down here, so they're clean and safe, ready to go in later. In the meantime, I filled up with my jug with the Quantum Long Life oil. This is a 5 litre box, but it doesn't seem to be 5 litres, so that's very interesting. So it's about 4.8 there. So yeah, we're ready to go. I've got my oil filter here. I've got the seal already lubricated. I've even got my torque wrench set to 25 Newton meters to put the oil filter housing back on, which I have loosened already. So hopefully you can see that there. It's really, really easy to get to. Now, there's a point where they start to drain down, which is where we'll leave it while we do the rest of the work, but that's pretty much most of the way up. It's not tight, you know, from the factory. It was really virtually only just a tiny bit more than hand tight, which is how they should be. So that's why I'm using a torque wrench to make sure. You can hear it now. Hopefully you can hear that. I'll get the mic a bit closer. That's draining away, so we'll leave that there because we want the housing to be empty before we take it off. Everything else is ready to go, so let's drop the bonnet and get the car up in the air. Okay, the car's now safely up in the air. I just want to say, if you're doing this at home on axle stands and trolley jacks, just be very, very careful. We don't want the car falling on you and killing you, because that would be one less view and I can't afford to lose that view, so please be extra careful. Okay, I've got my crosshead screwdriver ready to get the sump plug out. I kind of like these plastic sumps because putting the plug in is sort of something that doesn't need a lot of effort, and it's really impossible to over tighten it. So, you know, even when the car's quite old, it's had a few oil changes, you're not going to come across an over tightened sump plug, which is sadly quite common on the older cars. Right, so hopefully you can see the sump plug there, and screwdriver is in it. It's quite tight, strangely, but yeah. So that's just turned, that's 90 degrees now. And there she blows, right. Yes. Goodbye oil. Hopefully you can see it's, I mean, it's brown, which is probably the colour of oil. You can see right through it. No, it's not going to be too filthy at 1,348 miles, but it's the bits we can't see that are the problem. So yeah, if you know anything about engines, you will hopefully appreciate how important it is to do this, especially when you've got 300 horsepower out of just 2 litres. While we leave that to drain, let me just show you something else while the car's up in the air. Now, when I did this video, the first video, when I was protecting the underside, I used a Volkswagen wax. Well, somebody, I'm sorry, I can't remember who, but thank you very much, commented on that video, or maybe it was on Instagram, that there was a product available from Euro Car Parts for about half the price that was pretty much the same as the Volkswagen wax. And I like the sound of that, because in a lot of situations when you're buying something from Volkswagen, you know you're paying about twice as much as you need to. But that was really good wax. But this stuff from Euro Car Parts seems to be just as good. I've already tried it out, and yeah, it's called cavity wax. I'll put the information on it in the description below, but as I said, it's about 10 quid, which is half the price of the VW stuff. Now, ever since I protected this car, it's been driving around in lots of salt and horrible gritty conditions, so I'm hoping what I sprayed before has done a good job. But I'll just spray some of this on here so you can see what it looks like, and that actually goes on nicer and thicker than the Volkswagen stuff, so yeah, not bad. It's the front of the wishbones that's probably the bigger problem with these cars, because you can't actually get a pressure washer on them very easily, so it's nice to give it just another coat. So yeah, Normfest cavity wax from Euro Car Parts. Thank you, whoever you are. Okay, it's been about 20 minutes with the oil draining out, and I think we're pretty much done. I've got the new sump plug ready on the end of my flat blade screwdriver. I've actually lubricated the seal on that, which I'm not sure I've done with these cars before, but generally with an O-ring seal, on an oil system, you lubricate it first. So I don't think it can do any harm. Right, let's get this in. So yeah, it's pretty much stopped. There's still the odd drip, but it really isn't worth worrying about it when it's that slow. So let's get the plug in. It should find its place with a bit of turning. And there it is. So you can feel it click into place there, and you know it's quite happy. It doesn't take an awful lot of torque at all. They've obviously designed it to be not very torque dependent. So yeah, it just locks into place, which I think is quite a nice touch. It was actually horizontal as well. So the plug's got some markings on it where you put the screwdriver, and there's some horizontal markings either side of where you put the screwdriver. So when it's in the right position, that is horizontal. I'll just check that again now though, because I'm paranoid about these things. So put that in. Yeah, it does not want to turn any more than that. So that's definitely correct. Okay, so that's done. Now, if you're working with the car on the ground, just get the drainer away. While it was draining, you could have done the oil filter because it would be at sort of hand level, but because the car's up in the air, I can't do that. But because we set it draining originally, it's ready to be done now. So let's get the car down and get the filter changed and then put some oil in, and we're pretty much done then. Okay, this is where it might get a bit tricky trying to film this and do it, but we're going to now undo the oil filter, which was pretty much out, to be honest. Still a bit of oil in there, and put that in the drainer. Okay, so we're just left now with the oil filter housing with the old O-ring on it. So if I put that on the desk there, I can swap that over. So I've got a flat blade screwdriver. Yeah, you do need a little flat blade screwdriver as well. And then just pop that out like that. Take your new one, which is here already lubricated, and slot that into place, just trying not to stretch it too much. Like that, and then run it down to the bottom lip there. Okay, so it says 25 Newton meters on there, so that's what we're going to tighten it to. Don't forget to put the filter in. It doesn't matter which way round it goes, but I just feel better having the writing at the top. So push that in. That's now ready to go on. So let's just put that on the engine, just there. So turn it clockwise to get it started. And then get your torque wrench and find out where your socket is. Okay, so it's over here. So let's swap that over. Okay, so that's now on the filter, and the torque wrench is preset to 25 Newton meters. Make sure it's turning the right way. So with the torque wrench, you just turn it until you hear it go click, and then you know you're at the specified torque. So there we go. Okay, we now need to get the oil into the engine. So we've got our just under 5 litres here in the jug, and it's going to be quite difficult to film. Let's try there. Okay, hopefully the strut's not in the way. Won't be a problem with Golf 8, will it? So we've got a funnel ready to go into the oil filler aperture. It's not a particularly nice fit, this, because you can't slot it in, so you have to hold it with one hand and pour it in with the other. And being a very cold day today, I reckon it's about freezing. It's going to take quite a long time. But we're going to get this 5 litres in and then check with the dipstick and then top it up as required, being very careful not to overfill it. Okay, so that's 5 litres in. Let's get the dipstick now and see how much more we need to put in. Okay, so just giving it a little wipe to make sure it's clean, and let's dip away. Okay, so we're roughly, I don't know if you can see that, about halfway up the dipstick. Now, generally, this isn't really representative of what it would be once you'd started the engine. It'll be a little bit lower once you do that. So we need at least half a litre in there. So let's do that. This can's on just over 2 litres. So if we get it up to about 1.5, slightly more on the marker, we should be there or thereabouts and ready to start the engine. So one more check with the dipstick. Where are we now? We're going to be close to the top. It doesn't matter if we're slightly over the top now, and you know we've only put in 5 and 0.6 litres at this point, so you know we're nowhere near the maximum. So yeah, not sure if you can see that, but it's just over the kink, which is just over the max. But that's fine because we haven't started the engine yet. Let's put the cap on and do that. I probably should have mentioned when I started working in the engine bay, I took the engine cover off, which is right here. This is really easy to do. It's much easier than some of the older ones. There you go, that's on. And then to take it off, all you do is just pull it up and do it evenly. There you go, that's all. Okay, I like to let it run for about 30 seconds and then check the oil level again. If it's slightly under, brilliant, because you really need to check the oil when the engine's warm, and at this point it's not. So probably somewhere between half and on the max would be really where we want it to be. So let's see where we are. Okay, let's just get some cloth. Here we go. And I'll put this back down here again. Okay, that's good. Right, dipstick. So we'll wipe it, dip it again. Okay, I'd say that's around the halfway mark. So we gave it such a good drain, even 5.6 litres isn't there. So we need just another real, I don't know, couple of 100 mil will do. So I'll just give it a bit more now. It's really just a quick splash of oil. Sorry, I can't show you because the camera's in the wrong direction. But as I said, it's better to be under the max than over it. So that's where we're going to be now. So that's it. So that's probably about 5.7 actually, 5.8. Yep. That's the official fill. Okay guys, well I think that's it then. Yeah, just be very careful not to overfill and you cannot go wrong. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed this Volks Wizard video with doing my first oil change on my Golf R estate. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. I do hope it's really useful for everybody when it comes to doing this real basic job, because this is all these cars need, just regular oil changes. And if you can do it yourself and not have to take it to a garage, then I'm pretty sure you'll do it more often, and that's got to be good for the cars in the longer term. Anyway, if you've enjoyed the video, I'd say please comment, please share, please subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one, hopefully very soon.